Welcome to Investment Island, your trusted guide to the often turbulent seas of finance. Today we're diving deep into a fascinating and historically significant topic, the gold standard. Buckle up as we navigate the intricacies of this monetary system, exploring its origins, its mechanics, and its eventual demise. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting your financial journey, understanding the gold standard can provide valuable insights into the evolution of our global monetary system. So grab your snorkel and let's explore. In essence, the gold standard is a monetary system where a country's currency is directly tied to a fixed quantity of gold. This means that the value of a currency is directly linked to the price of gold. For instance, if a country sets its currency at $100 per ounce of gold, citizens can theoretically exchange their paper money for actual gold at that rate. This system creates a direct relationship between a nation's money supply and its reserves of this precious metal. The roots of the gold standard can be traced back centuries, with early forms emerging as gold and silver coins became widely accepted forms of payment. These precious metals were valued for their rarity and intrinsic worth, making them ideal for trade and commerce. Ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Greeks and Romans, utilized gold and silver coins, establishing a foundation for what would become a global monetary system. However, the formal adoption of the gold standard by major world powers took place in the 19th century. This period marked a significant shift in economic policy, as nations sought to stabilize their currencies and facilitate international trade. The gold standard provided a common measure of value, reducing the risks associated with currency fluctuations and fostering economic cooperation among countries. The United Kingdom, a dominant economic force at the time, embraced the gold standard in 1821, setting a precedent for other nations. The British economy, bolstered by the Industrial Revolution, saw the gold standard as a means to enhance its financial stability and international influence. As a result, countries like Germany, France, and the United States soon followed suit, adopting the gold standard in the latter half of the 19th century. The period between the 1870s and the outbreak of World War I is often considered the classical gold standard era, a time when many countries adhered to this system, fostering international trade and financial stability. During this era, the gold standard facilitated unprecedented economic growth and global trade expansion. It provided a reliable framework for international transactions, allowing businesses to operate with greater confidence and predictability. However, the onset of World War I disrupted this system, leading to significant economic upheaval and the eventual decline of the gold standard in the 20th century. The mechanics of the gold standard were seemingly simple yet profound in their implications. At its core, the gold standard was a monetary system where a country's currency or paper money had a value directly linked to gold. Countries agreed to convert paper money into a fixed amount of gold, and the value of the currency was tied to the amount of gold held in reserve. Participating countries established a fixed exchange rate between their currencies and gold. This system created a stable environment for international trade and investment, as exchange rates between currencies were predictable and fixed. The stability provided by the gold standard was one of its most significant advantages. This meant that governments committed to buying and selling gold at that predetermined price. They had to maintain large reserves of gold to ensure they could meet the demand for currency conversion. This commitment required strict monetary discipline and often influenced national economic policies. For example, if the U.S. set the price of gold at $20 per ounce, it would exchange dollars for gold and vice versa at that rate. This fixed price meant that the value of the dollar was directly tied to the value of gold, providing a tangible measure of value. This mechanism had significant effects on a country's money supply. When gold flowed into a country, the money supply increased, leading to potential economic growth. Conversely, when gold flowed out, the money supply contracted, which could lead to economic slowdowns or deflation. When a country experienced a trade surplus, exporting more than it imported, gold flowed into its reserves. This influx of gold increased the money supply, potentially leading to inflation if not managed properly. Conversely, a trade deficit would result in gold outflows, reducing the money supply and potentially causing deflation. The gold standard thus imposed a natural check on trade imbalances, influencing economic policies and international relations. Section 5. The allure of gold. Why use the gold standard? The gold standard gained traction for several compelling reasons. Firstly, pegging currencies to gold was seen as a way to ensure price stability. Unlike fiat currencies, which are not backed by a physical commodity, gold's relative scarcity provided a degree of confidence that its value would not fluctuate dramatically. Secondly, the gold standard facilitated international trade by creating a stable exchange rate system. This predictability made it easier for businesses to engage in cross-border transactions, fostering economic growth. Section 6. The Fall of a Giant. The Decline of the Gold Standard. The 20th century witnessed the gradual decline of the gold standard, a system that had long been the bedrock of international finance. For decades, the value of currencies was directly tied to a specific amount of gold, providing a stable and predictable economic environment. However, as the world entered a new era of industrialization and global conflict, the limitations of this system began to surface. The outbreak of World War I disrupted trade patterns and forced many countries to abandon the gold standard to finance their war efforts. The massive costs of the war required nations to print more money, leading to inflation and economic instability. The rigid nature of the gold standard made it difficult for countries to respond flexibly to these new economic realities. Although some nations attempted to return to the gold standard during the interwar period, the system proved too rigid to accommodate the economic challenges of the Great Depression. The global economic downturn of the 1930s highlighted the inflexibility of the gold standard, as countries struggled to stimulate their economies while being constrained by the need to maintain gold reserves. This period saw widespread unemployment, bank failures, and a significant decline in international trade. The United States, which had played a pivotal role in the gold standard, officially abandoned the system in 1971, ushering in the era of floating exchange rates that persists to this day. President Richard Nixon's decision to sever the link between the dollar and gold marked a significant shift in global economic policy. This move allowed for greater flexibility in monetary policy, enabling countries to better manage their economies in response to changing conditions. The transition to floating exchange rates has since become the norm, reflecting the dynamic and interconnected nature of the modern global economy. Section 7. Golden Pros Advantages of a Gold-Backed System. The gold standard, despite its eventual demise, offered several advantages. Its proponents argued that it promoted price stability by limiting the ability of governments to manipulate their currencies. By tethering the money supply to gold reserves, the gold standard acted as a natural brake on inflation, preventing governments from simply printing more money. Additionally, the fixed exchange rates fostered international trade and investment, contributing to economic growth. Section 8. Golden Shackles. Disadvantages of the gold standard. However, the gold standard was not without its drawbacks. One major criticism was its inflexibility. The system's reliance on a fixed gold price meant that governments had limited ability to respond to economic shocks, such as recessions or financial crises. Moreover, the gold standard could exacerbate deflationary pressures. If the supply of gold failed to keep pace with economic growth, the resulting deflation could lead to falling prices, wage cuts, and economic stagnation. Section 9. Join the Investment Island community. That's your deep dive into the gold standard. Did you find this exploration of monetary history valuable? If you did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Investment Island for more insightful content. Ring the bell to stay updated on our latest releases, and share this video with your fellow investors. Section 10. Important disclaimer. The information presented on Investment Island is for educational purposes only, and is not intended as financial advice. Investing involves risk, and the value of investments can fluctuate. Before making any investment decisions, consult with a qualified financial advisor to determine the best course of action based on your individual circumstances.